barrel for the attack, and that is almost going to seal the deal because the mighty manner, the Bob takes him the tower. What's up YouTube, welcome back to another video of Clash Royale, and in this video I was lucky enough to have Danger Dragon, right, an Indian semi-pro player who recently, very early in the season reached Ultimate Champion and is currently the 264th in the world. So he reached the Ultimate Champion with a very weird, I would say very weird, right? Very weird recruits deck. He's known for playing recruits, and he's known for being one of the best recruits players in the world. And he shared this deck, which he said is very common, right? Though he's from India, he said it's very common in the Saudi Arabian region, played by top players from Saudi Arabia. And this recruits deck is all about attack and pressure, right? So when I asked him, right, what are the pro tips that you want to give to the viewers, he said, number one, this deck focuses on defending first. Even though it looks like a hyper offensive deck, you want to defend a lot, and considering you only have one spell, your main source of damage would be through the counter attack, and timing your spell is everything. And the second thing is, he said, always try to cycle to your Evo and don't be afraid to use your Evo wall breakers or the Evo skeleton barrel for the defense. Actually, in this deck is quite weird. Generally, if you see Firecracker, she's only played for the Evo, but this deck throws that in the dustbin and says, let's just use the regular Firecracker and let's use the fucking broken Evos of Evo wall breaker and the Evo skeleton barrel. Oh, stutter man, I always stutter a lot. Okay, next. Another important thing is knowing your opponent's cycle and hand. I guess this goes without saying, but for this deck it's a little bit more important because recruits' philosophies are always about, hey, I have one card in my deck that's gonna annoy the fucking crap out of you, and I'm gonna abuse that, right? I think I shared this with my own recruits guide with you guys, but with Danger Dragon, he made that statement very clear that there is at least one card in this deck that's gonna annoy the crap out of your opponent. We abuse the shit out of that. Right, next. If there is a hard push coming for you to attack or for you to defend, you focus on using positive trades with the Firecracker, the Mighty Miner, or the Recruits. So he said that these three cards are primarily used for you to collect your positive trade for your counter attack, and if you want any positive elixir trades, you must also defend with the Evo wall breakers or the Evo barrel. For this deck, well, obviously not just this deck but every expo decks in the world, you're gonna have a blast and easy time with the expo, right? I mean, whenever you face the expo, you can just switch your brain off and say, you know what, fuck you brain, I don't need you for the next 3 minutes, and you can play your match. But on the other hand, if you're going up against Hog EQ or the Graveyard, you're gonna have a little bit of trouble. So let's get right into the matches, and the first match is none other than Elmo Lejas, a recent CRO player who played in front of thousands of people, and he played Graveyard against Danger over here. So as we can see, the starting move is always to cycle to the Evos, so he isn't afraid to play the wall breakers or the skeleton barrel. In some cases, both. As you can see, in consecutive motion, he just plays both, and he just tries to defend whatever's coming through with the Mighty Miner, Recruit, or the Firecracker. Damn, the hero bowler is pretty broken. but he lets the lock on first before he plays the recruit. And now the recruits are healthy, and he has a double lane pressure with one lane having the skeleton barrel, and one skeleton gets missed in the tornado, and that does a lot of chip damage against Emalejas. And he's forcing out the Valkyrie, which again is tightened back with the wall breakers, forcing out an awkward Tesla. And if I'm not wrong, the firecracker did connect. There was splash damage, if I'm not wrong. There we go. Once again with the minions doing work. He notices that the opponent is very low on the elixir and isn't afraid to go in. And due to those plays, he pretty much brings out very awkward interactions for the opponent, who are forced to just defend with whatever they have. Constant pressure with this deck is the way to win, right? Because you only have one spell, that is the arrows. You got to make sure that the arrows, you use it for as much of a positive elixir trade that you can, right? Unlike the general recruits decks that run 2 to 3 spells, right? This deck only runs one, and even that one spell at times is enough as long as you play correct. There we go. That arrow clipped the tower, the ice wizard, and the Valkyrie along with the Tesla. And once again, Mike Vanna just to block the bowler shot, and the minions doing a heavy job doing the cleanup duty. Honestly, and again, the Evo Wallbreakers in the opposite lane, knowing that there's no elixir in hand, and all of that combined with one more set of recruits forcing out awkward interactions for El Molejas. This meta, there's going to be a lot of hero bowlers, because hero bowlers is beyond broken. So people who are playing recruits, generally the bowler is a very good counter to it. But when you play this version of recruits, you might have a very good interactions, and you might be able to win more matches than you would expect. Because of course this deck doesn't have a big spell, but once again, right, if you play it right, you win. So against Graveyard, he said that you want to save the Goblin Gang as much as possible. Worst case scenario, you want to split at the back, because Goblin Gang is going to be the best counter to the Graveyard. And if you play correct, the Goblin Gang will counter even with the Graveyard and Poison. It will be able to make sure that you get as much mitigated damage as possible. And with that, Danger wins this match. So let's not dilly-dally, and let's go into the second match that he sent. And this time Danger is on the top and Aerox is on the bottom. I mean, to making sure that you guys are able to see the screen properly, I thought I'll just adjust it in this manner. So I will let you guys know where the players are, right? But it will be pretty evident, because considering we will only be sharing one deck at a time. Against bait, he mentioned that you just need to make sure that you can defend both the lane and you're able to put pressure on both the lanes as well. So low key, when you're going up against bait, they have very cheap units, which means that they can create a lot of pressure as well. But if you play right, you'll be able to counteract whatever they throw in and form that into a counter push. Because if you take like Aerox's deck, which doesn't have a big spell, I will showcase the deck after this match, right? So Aerox's deck didn't have any major big spell, so because of that, you just create immense pressure, and you will eventually be able to break through. And here comes the recruits. So recruits is pretty much a very good counter whenever they play the Evo barrel, because recruits can create the pressure for both the lanes. And here come the arrows on the Dark Goblin and the minions in the middle. And for this matchup, minions is the one card um, that Aerox couldn't touch properly, because minions, you need the Dark Goblin to counter it, but you also want to play the Dark Goblin overload. So you might want to say the Fire Spirit, but Fire Spirit doesn't counter it completely, does it? Once again, spin the minion in the middle, right, and forcing out both the spirits. And in the other lane, here comes the barrel, which is kind of back with the cannon. And at the moment, you can see how much pressure Danger is putting on Eros. Again, another connection by the wall breaker, and here comes Eros with another push, which the recruits will take care of. Recruits and the firecracker at the back. Though the wall breaker does get a connection, the match pretty much is still in the favor of Danger. And with that, again, the minions doing the work on the Valkyrie, forcing out defensive wall breakers, not even the Evo, by the way. And here comes another Evo barrel. Is the Evo barrel going to connect? Yes, it will. And that takes the tower. Mortar versus the recruits. Right, so again, against the Mortar, what Danger mentioned was that you want to time your recruits as much as possible for the Mortar. Right, so once again, right, he waits for the opponent to make the first move, and though the decks are very similar, I'm just going to let you guys know, Danger is on the top and Angel Mortar is in the bottom right now. Here comes the barrel and the mortar. Mighty Miner 2 kite it out, and as you can see, he's just waiting for the opponent to make a big push. As he said, you want to counter attack more than blindly go in with the attack with this deck. You want to play it as slow as possible wherever needed, and just go in the counter when you see the opportunity. Like right now, when he plays the recruits, he just goes in with the wall breaker on the side, and both the wall breakers connect for a ton of damage. Again, awkward water. forcing out an awkward mortar. That's the main thing. The key takeaway from this deck is because you're so relentless with the attack and the counterattacks, more so the counterattack than the attack, you get to force out really awkward plays by opponents. And once again, one small connection by the man, I'm starting so much. One more connection by the Evo Wall Breaker. And now the mortar is forced to go for the recruits in the opposite lane, and the mortar is almost dead. There we go. Firecracker pretty much clears out the entire thing. Goblin Gang from the back is gonna make sure that he gets as less damage as possible. Main thing is he did not use the arrows because he wants to use the arrows for the attack against the Dark Goblin, and because of that he gets immense damage, putting him in the damage lead. There we go, another mortar comes in, Firecracker, and the Mighty Miner timed perfectly. Minions to take out the mortar more, and protecting the Firecracker is the main thing, right? Because it forces out the Barbarian Barrel, and here comes another push by Angel Mortar. A counter-attacking push with the barrel by him, and this time he has to go defensive arrows. He couldn't save for the attack because the Evo skeleton barrel does damage a lot, and knowing that the elixir is a little low for the opponent, he goes in with the recruits, and this again is another push, forcing out the fireball, right, and an awkward mortar once again. There we go. And with that, he saved up the arrow for the attack, and that is almost going to seal the deal because the Mighty Miner, the bomb takes him the tower. This gameplay against the Expo, not because Expo is a very easy matchup, but by the fact of how you can counteract if you are playing recruits and you don't have a big spell, because the recruit variations that don't have a big spell have an inherent not a disadvantage, but it's inherently more difficult to get those chip damage in against a hyper defensive deck like the Expo. A little bit of emoting by Danger actually, because he knew that the opponent was playing Expo and this is gonna be a bloody easy matchup. Honestly, for this match, it's pretty straightforward, you want to save the recruits for the Expo, and until he plays the Expo, you want to avoid going with the recruits. In this case, he didn't mention that he shouldn't have played the firecracker at the back, giving the fireball damage. But then sometimes you just gotta play it, you know. But that play, on the other hand, did make sure that the opponent had to cycle all the way back to another fireball. And this is an exhibition of how strong Expo is, right? Because Expo 3.0 played Fireball on the Firecracker and cycled all the way to another Fireball before an Evo Skeleton Barrel was going to connect the tower. That's how strong it is. And the Skeleton Barrel was played pretty much immediately. It was like, I think, one card after the Firecracker. And this just is a testament of how strong of a cycle deck Expo still is. There we go. The match is still pretty tight because here comes another Tesla by the Expo player. In fact, it was the Evo Tesla. Evo Tesla still full counters Expo. The opponent started doing the fireball cycle. Oh, he's been cycling fireball for a very long time right now because he knew that that was the only way he can get damage, so he didn't play the Expo at all. And that's how, if you are playing Expo and you want to counter the recruits, the best way for you to play Expo against recruits is by not using the Expo at all, because you know that when you play the Expo, you're gonna be in an inherent disadvantage. You have another fireball and the wall breaker going through. Is the wall breaker going to connect? No, it doesn't, because the King Tower is active, and that pretty much ends the match, with the fireball and the arrows just being exchanged. It was a very close match, right? An extremely close match, but still Danger takes it. So that's it, guys. That was the replay shared by Danger. He did mention that this deck is quite attack oriented, all right, counter attack oriented, and he said it's a really fun deck to play with, and I can vouch for that fact. It is a really fun deck to play with, so make sure that you guys try it out, right? And for those who want to seek professional advice from Danger, he is in my server, so you can, or anytime you want, you can just connect with him in my Discord server, and he can assist you with any sort of thing that you want in terms of clarifying things in your gameplay. And basically, he's a pretty apt coach if you want to reach your first ultimate champion, right? So that's it for today, guys. I hope you guys had a wonderful day. Make sure that you like, share, and subscribe this content and the video so that you can enjoy more gameplays and I can make more collaborations just like this in the future. And until then, over and out.